Welcome to part 2 of this month's Photography Online, which is once again commercial free, so you wouldn't have to press that skip button. Just sit back, grab a drink and absorb the show for the next 30 minutes. As always, I've got an action-packed show lined up for you, so let's get straight on with it. Tripods are one of those simple things which don't come with an operator's manual, but if they did, then what might they say? Here's Marcus to give us a few hints on how to get the most out of our three-legged friend.
Now you might think I'm having a laugh when I tell you that I'm going to show you how to use a tripod. I mean, it has 3 legs, the camera goes on here, and that's pretty much it. However, if I had £1 for every time I'd seen one of these being used badly, I'd have enough money to, well, buy one of these.
So let's start with the basics. A tripod should be easy to use. If you have one which takes longer than a few seconds to set up and pack away, then you're going to resent using it and will try to talk yourself out of doing so at every opportunity.
Now I can usually spot them from a mile off, the photographer who has a tripod but hates using it, because they'll be carrying their tripod in a tripod case. Now, the purpose of a tripod case is... anybody? No? Exactly. There is no point of a tripod case, so let's get rid of that because it's not going to improve your photography.
Another way you can identify the tripod noob is that when they set it up, they always extend everything to full length and do each leg section one at a time.
Seriously, if I did that every time I wanted to take a photo, then I would have given up a long time ago. Now, if and only if you want to extend more than one leg section, undo all the twist locks or latches when they're all together. So if I want to extend all 3 legs, I'll twist all 3 grips at the same time while they're together. This now extends one go. If you do them one at a time, as most people do, and you do this, and then you do that one, and then you do that one, it's 3 times more work, and the same goes for when you collapse it again. So if I only want to extend 2 leg sections, then I just twist the first 2 like that and then pull it out, and then that's 2 done. It's easy as that. A tripod should be easy to use, because if it's easy, then you'll enjoy using it and you'll want to use it. If you have something like this, a travel tripod where the legs invert back onto the center column, this is all very well for saving space in your bag, but once you've got it into the tripod mode and out of the travel mode, then don't put it back into the travel mode each time between shots, because that can make things very complicated, and then the whole thing becomes a little bit of a faff, and well, you get the idea. You'll talk yourself out of using it.
So let's go over some common mistakes which people make when using their tripods. Only extend a tripod as high as it needs to go to get the shot, not as high as it will go.
The taller you have your tripod, the less stable it's going to be. Now, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that you never use your tripod in the fully extended mode, but only do so if it's necessary to get the viewpoint that you need.
Extend the larger leg sections first and only use the thinner leg sections as a last resort.
The larger leg sections offer the best stability, so if you only want to extend your tripod by 1 leg section, extend the top leg section, which is the thicker one, and not the bottom section, which is the thinnest one. That's going to give you the least stability. If you're working in seawater, then forget everything I just said, because you want to extend the lower leg sections first, and that's because you want to keep the joints out of the salty water. Fresh water, however, is fine.
Never use a center column unless you have no other options to gain more height.
Now I see people doing stuff like this all the time, raising the center column instead of the legs to get extra height. Now I get it, because this is only one thing to adjust, so it's easy, whereas to raise the whole tripod up by adjusting all 3 leg sections is more of a faff. But with the center column extended like this, essentially what we've got is a monopod balanced on top of a tripod, and that's never going to be very stable.
A center column is often more of a hindrance than it is a help, as it prevents the camera from being positioned very low to the ground, something which is often far more useful than gaining extra height. So if you have a removable center column, The best place to keep this is in the case, which stays in the cupboard under the stairs with all the other junk that you never use. Always ensure that your tripod is level.
This is easy if you're on flat level ground, but if you're on sloping terrain, don't just extend all three legs to the same length and then plonk the camera down. You want to ensure that the weight of the camera is being evenly distributed between all three legs, as that's going to maximize stability, especially in high winds.
It's much easier to level the tripod by adjusting the angle of the legs rather than the length of them. So it helps if your tripod has the ability to adjust the angle of each leg individually. Tripods come with different types of feet.
The most common are rubber feet, but you can also get spiked feet, and you can even get snowshoes for your tripod. The best one for you will depend on what surface you're working on.
Generally speaking, spikes will be the best option for most outdoor situations, especially on softer ground, but they also work better than rubber feet on hard rock and sand too. Rubber feet are best for indoor use, where spikes might scratch the floor. Spikes dug into the ground ensure the tripod is secured in a far better way than simply resting on top of it, as would be the case with rubber feet. Choose the ground you place your tripod on wisely.
Another thing you can do to maximize the stability of a tripod is to ensure that all three legs are on the most solid ground you can find. So here, to get this composition, if I just plonk the tripod down without any thought, the chances are that at least one or two of the legs will be on soft grass. But by twisting the tripod slightly, without compromising my viewpoint obviously, I've managed to find all three legs a rock surface to sit on. And what that's doing is it's giving me a much more sturdy and solid foundation for the tripod.
A good test to check how sturdy your tripod is to try to wobble it with your finger. It should feel rock solid, but if you do feel any movement, then improvements can probably be made which will help the quality of your photography. In windy conditions, do not hang your camera bag from the base of a tripod.
If you've got a good sturdy tripod that's well connected to the ground, which this one isn't, then even in 60-mile-an-hour winds, you should be able to take long exposure shots of several seconds without any problem at all. One thing you don't want to do though, is do this. Hang your bag from the center column. Because in high winds, can you see what's happening? The wind's blowing it around, and that's causing the tripod to physically move. All these legs are flexing. That's going to put massive movement through the camera. So whatever you do not do that.
There are many different tripod heads, and to go into each one would be another show on its own. We've already covered gimbal heads in part 1 of our June show, so check that out if you haven't already seen it.
The head I use is called a pistol grip head, and the reason I use it is because of its simplicity. It's the only head that allows you to move the camera in all orientations with just using one hand.
With most ball heads, you need to support the camera with one hand while you adjust the tension with the other. Not much use if you already have something in your other hand.
Also, this head negates the need to have an L bracket on your camera, because even in portrait mode, the camera is still reasonably close to the ball head, which means the weight's nice and evenly distributed. Now, I know many photographers who don't like these, so they're not for everybody, but I'm just showing you what works best for me.
A good tripod should last a lifetime, so you should only need to buy it once.
The two tripods that I use here might not be cheap, but it's more economical to buy decent stuff once than it is to buy cheap stuff and have to replace it 3 or 4 times.
I got fed up with spending £600 on Gitzo legs for them to break only after a year or two. These two tripods are now sold in the MC2 photography shop, but we don't promote them to sell them. We sell them because, having used many different tripods, we consider these to be among the best on the market, and we want to make them available to our customers too.
This is my personal tripod, which I've used for almost 4 years, and I've abused it in the harshest of environments, yet it still works as good as it did the day it came out the box. To illustrate just how sturdy this tripod is, I was recently stood on an exposed cliff top, not dissimilar to this one, with a workshop customer in 60-mile-an-hour winds. Now, It was the extreme winds which was creating the drama in the scene which we wanted to capture. And we were trying to do 30-second long exposures, pretty ambitious stuff in 60-mile-an-hour winds. Now, the workshop customer had a Faisal carbon fibre, very heavy-duty tripod, and upon reviewing his images, he was very disappointed to see that they just weren't sharp. Mine, however, were pin sharp, so I lent him my tripod, and the results were immediate.
This is the shot the customer was getting with his tripod. And this is the shot he got with the same camera, same lens, but using my tripod.
As you can see, a tripod is not just a set of legs. You can make a huge difference to the end result of your photography. So having a good tripod should be right at the top of your wish list, second only to camera and lens.
Who knew something so simple could take up 8 minutes of the show? Hopefully something you saw in there will be helpful next time you use your tripod. As Marcus said, the tripods that he featured are available from our shop, for which there's a link down below. Now, a tripod is one part of what could be described as core camera kit, but how much does it cost to get a complete kit, starting with nothing, to allow you to achieve the results that you want? Well, now that's a difficult question, but we thought we'd at least try to find out. So I gave the guys 3 different budgets and told